At first, we begin with a major escalation for Australians abroad this morning. In the past few hours, the Foreign Minister Penny Wong has released a video statement telling Australians in Lebanon that they should leave immediately. The warning comes as fears grow of a full-scale war in the region following major developments there over the past 24 hours.
One of Hezbollah's military commanders in Beirut was killed in an Israeli strike, and Hamas's political leader was killed in Iran. Big developments overnight. We've got Nicole Hegarty in Parliament House and our US Bureau Chief Jade McMillan standing by. Nicole, I want to start with you. Good morning. What's the Foreign Minister Penny Wong said?
Good morning, Lisa. Well, the Foreign Minister Penny Wong is really seeking to convey the urgency through this message which she's posted on social media, appealing for Australians in Lebanon, both citizens and residents, to leave now while it's still an option, saying that the security situation is volatile and may change quite quickly. Now, there are still quite a number of Australians in Lebanon, and that's of particular concern to the government. They've stepped up their messaging. We know that since October, the message has been do not travel to the region, but now the message is clearly move towards the airport and get out as soon as you possibly can, while that's still an option. The issue here is that they're feeling that a lot of the community is wanting to wait this out and see if the escalation does happen in the manner that it's warned or assumed it may. But the clear message from Penny Wong is take advantage of those flights while they're still available.
Beirut Airport could close completely if the situation worsens. And if that happens, the government may not be able to help Australians still in Lebanon to evacuate. You may not be able to leave Lebanon for an extended period.
So the clear message to Australians, both citizens and residents in Lebanon, is to not wait and see how this situation develops, but to make those moves towards the airport and leave now. Lisa?
OK, Nicole, our North America Bureau Chief Jade McMillan has been watching the developments internationally from Washington. Jade, what's been the reaction to these significant developments in the last 24 hours?
Well, Lisa, both Iran and Hamas are blaming Israel for the death of the senior Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh. He had been staying in Tehran as a guest of the Iranian government when he was killed. Iran's supreme leader is vowing harsh punishment, and he says that it's Tehran's duty to avenge his death. Now, we do not know at this stage what that could possibly look like. Israel isn't making any comment, although the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has previously said in the wake of the October 7 attacks that he'd instructed Israel's Foreign Intelligence Service to act against Hamas leaders wherever they were. And Israel has claimed responsibility for that other strike you mentioned in Lebanon, which killed a Hezbollah commander. Israel had accused him of being behind a strike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights over the weekend that killed 12 people. So there are concerns in the region and abroad of a potentially very serious escalation here. Benjamin Netanyahu gave a televised address earlier. He did not mention the incident in Iran, but he argued that Israel had delivered what he called crushing blows against Iranian proxies, including Hezbollah and Hamas, in recent days.
There are challenging days ahead of us. Since the attack in Beirut, threats have been heard from all sides. We are prepared for any scenario and will stand united and determined against any threat. Israel will exact a heavy price from any aggression against us on any front.
So, Jade, all of this comes under the shadow of ceasefire negotiations in Gaza that are supposed to be continuing. What does it mean for them?
Yeah, well, as well as raising those concerns about the prospect here potentially for a wider conflict, it has raised questions about how these developments could affect those ceasefire negotiations that are still underway at the moment, particularly given the role that this senior Hamas leader had been playing in those talks. He had been based in Qatar. Qatar and Egypt have been acting as mediators in those negotiations, and they have both suggested today that these developments could undermine progress on that front. The United States, publicly at least at this stage, is insisting that escalation isn't inevitable, and White House spokesman John Kirby argued that work towards trying to reach a ceasefire was ongoing, that he believes it can still be achieved.
As we're standing here today, they're still at that work, and we've got a team in the region, and we're going to keep the shoulder to the wheel. It's that important, and we still believe the gaps are narrow enough to be closed. We still believe the details can be hashed out. It's too soon to know, based on the reporting over the last 24, 48 hours, what impact any of this is going to have on the ceasefire deal. It was always complicated.
Now, Lisa, the United Nations Security Council has been meeting. It called an emergency meeting to discuss these developments. The Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, has also weighed in. He has described both of these strikes as a dangerous escalation.
The bodies of a man and a woman have been found on a boat moored in Sydney's north overnight. Police were called to investigate when the pair didn't return home, as expected on Monday. They're believed to be aged in their 50s and 60s. A crime scene has now been set up as investigations begin into the cause of their deaths. New data shows a worrying number of young Australians are sleeping rough. 1 in 10 young people who responded to a Mission Australia youth survey in 2023 said they faced homelessness in the past year. The charity is calling for at least 15,000 dedicated social housing youth tenancies and a focus on prevention measures. Donald Trump has questioned the racial identity of his presumed presidential election opponent, Kamala Harris, in a contentious appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists convention. Mr. Trump was asked if he thought Ms. Harris was on the Democratic ticket just because she was black, and this was his response.
She was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Kamala Harris's father is a black man born in Jamaica and her mother was born in southern India. She's spoken for many years about how she identifies with the heritage of both her parents. The number of whooping cough cases in Western Australia has more than tripled last year, with 271 cases reported across the state. Perth and the southwest are the state's worst affected areas, with more than 80 cases each. Doctors are urging people to get vaccinated to protect themselves and vulnerable people, including newborn babies. A woman has died in a house fire in Melbourne's southeast this morning. Emergency services were called to the property on Adelaide Street in Murrumbeena just after 1:30. The woman, who is yet to be formally identified, was pronounced dead at the scene as Victoria Police investigate.